Welcome back to Stamping at the Warren, and today I'm sharing with you this little card here. Hopefully you can see that okay, and there's a lot of sparkle on there, and I've got the sparkle by using the Dazzling Diamonds glimmer paper, but in the seasonal catalogue we also have the Blushing Bride glimmer paper, which is just for this seasonal catalogue, and I just think it's gorgeous, and I've used a combination of the Balloon Celebration stamp set. You can see there, 2-step stamp set, really 3-step stamp set, so if you do the outline, then the solid, then the detail, it's a 3-step stamp set. And then you've got accessory stamps on there as well. You've got stars, you've got clouds. That could even be the topper, the froth on a cappuccino maybe. Things like coffee, cake, tea. So all sorts of delicious things on there. Perfect for children, but perfect for anybody of any age as well. And then I've coupled that with the Love Blossoms Designer Series paper stack, and I'll quickly flick through some of those. You get 4 sheets of each design, and each design comes in slightly different colourways, so really delightful. And it's 6-inch square, so it's a nice size. You can use it on your cards and scrapbooks, which is lovely. Right, so excuse the state of my fingers. They shouldn't come off on the cardstock because they've been well wiped, but they've stained from today's playing. So I'm just going to put this to one side because we're going to build the background. So you want to start with a piece of plain Whisper White cardstock. No, you don't. You want to start with your card base. Now it's really important, because we are doing stamping, that you put your card base to one side once you've finished. Now this is a 5-inch card base, so you want to trim your cardstock with thicker Whisper White cardstock to 10 inches by 5 inches, and then you score through the middle at 5 inches. Then fold so that the ridge is inside your card, match the edges, and then bring in your bone folder and burnish those folds to get a nice crisp fold along the edge there. Now put that to one side because I don't want to contaminate it with ink. So next is the Whisper White cardstock. That measures 11.6 by 11.6 centimetres. Now if you're working in inches, then simply reduce each layer by 1/4 of an inch, and that will keep you in line with what I'm doing with the centimetres. It's a fraction out, but it shouldn't have a huge impact on the card and its properties. Alright, so if you start from this one and then just work up by 1/4 an inch with each layer. So the first thing I'm going to do is create the background. And for that I've used a combination of 2 stamps and using smoky slate cardstock, so it's quite a subtle background for this. So start with I suppose it's like a blossomy flower type of thing, and you just want to randomly stamp, and don't ink up after each stamping. And also make sure that you do stamp off the page as well, because it gives a much more natural feel, and you do want it to be fairly random, so don't be too particular about your placings. It is a really big deal, particularly for new card crafters and rubber stampers. There is a tendency to want everything to be nice and regular. And all of my clients will laugh with familiarity with my saying, which is simply that nature is not perfect. In fact, it's far from perfect, and it's got more imperfections than it's got perfections. And so, you know, next time you're walking through a wildflower meadow or through a cornfield or looking at the leaves on the tree, are they all regular? No. Are they all placed in a regular way, the leaves and the flowers? No, they're not. Do they have regular colour? No, they don't. So utilise that randomness into your cards. Now, the next one I'm doing is, it's a bit like the, oh goodness, the word's gone. When the seed heads leave, it will come to me. You'll remind me anyway. And just randomly stamp some of these on. Again, twisting and turning the cardstock. Not re-inking every time. You don't need to overdo it with these, but it's just enough that it's going to create its own wallpaper, its own designer series paper. And by working on the Whisper White, it's keeping it fairly tone on tone, so when we do what we've got to do with the rest of it, it should look lovely. So I think that looks just about fine. You don't need any more than that. And that is all of the smoky slate ink finished, and the rest will be done using early espresso. And the reason I've chosen early espresso is because photopolymer, if you use an archival ink, and the basic black and the basic grey that's now available through Stampin' Up is archival, and it's important because they're the main two colours that you use. And if you're doing scrapbooking or you're making cards that you want to last, then you want them to be made using an archival inks. But the stays on cleaner that you need to clean the stamps can cause some it can cause some damage to the photopolymer stamp. It can deteriorate, so you're better off not using stays on ink but cleaning it straight away with Stampin' Mist. It does mean that the photopolymer stains, but it's going to stain whatever you do. It's the nature of the beast, and it does actually allow you to more accurately place things because you can see the outline of the stamped image you're doing. So next, using Early Espresso, which is a great, really deep, dark brown that's so brown it's almost chocolate, it's almost black, so it does work really, really well with anything that you would normally stamp with black. And I'm just going to put it down at a bit of an angle, and it just gives you those lovely fine lines there. And then next is a bit of punching, and this is one of the new punches, and this is a balloon punch, and you've got two sizes. And I decided, rather than doing all stamped, I thought I would do the balloons from punched cardstock rather than stamping them first, just to give you a contrast and bit of difference. So you've got the small and the large, and it is one punch, so if you put it in that way you could do two at the same time, but you can also, it's been segregated so you can do one at a time. So I'm going to do the Blushing Bride one. I'm going to do in blush with a large balloon, as that's going to be at the top. And then next I'm going to use glimmer paper, the Dazzling Diamonds, and you just want a small one of those. And do use your punches upside down so you can see what you're doing. And then this is that Blushing Bride. Isn't it lovely? Love it. I love Blushing Bride. It's one of my favourite colours anyway, and I use it a great deal. So just punch another one of those, and that's that punch done with. first of all, you just want to, I'm using Fast Fuse for speed and because it sticks on really well. So with a large balloon, just pop that on just so it overlaps some of the stems. That's that one. Next is the Dazzling Diamonds balloon, and this one you want to overlap that larger balloon. And then finally, with the Blushing Bride Glimmer Paper balloon, you just want to pop a couple of Stampin' dimensionals on the back, and this will pop this balloon up and give this project some lift. And then this one can go down here again so that they're all slightly overlapping, but you can still see the stem. Then using some of that designer series paper I showed you earlier, it's all double-sided, but I decided to go with this side. So you just want to use, and this has been trimmed to 11.6 centimetres long by 1.5 inches, to 11.6 centimetres long by 1.5 centimetres wide. So just use a piece of adhesive or Fast Fuse down there and just pop that along the top of the panel, but just leaving a small border along the top there. Okay, and then you can mat that onto your Blushing Bride cardstock, which measures, got to read my writing now, 12 centimetres by 12 centimetres, and remember you're just going up by 1/4 inch from the last layer if you're doing it in inches. And what I tend to do is in a book I write all of my layers down so that I know I do them in the graduated sizes, and then I keep them in my book. So if I want a wide border, I double the length that it's got in my book, and I just find it works that way. So it might be worth just typing it up for yourselves, and that way you're always got your mats easy to hand, so you know what each layer should measure. Right, next you're matting onto a piece of chocolate chip cardstock, because we're not, it's not chocolate chip, it's early espresso, so we're mimicking and coordinating with what we've used for the threads on the balloon bundle, and that measures 12.4 by 12.4 centimetres. There you go, and that just goes down on top of this layer, and it gives you a nice border around. Take your time, and then you can adhere that onto your card base. And just pop that down. Just decide whether you want the opening on the side or at the bottom. I tend to like mine at the bottom, but that's just personal choice. So that goes down. And then the final thing is just with a 1 centimetre. Now obviously if you don't feel confident in stamping onto such a small piece, then obviously you can stamp onto a slightly wider piece and just trim it down. That's absolutely fine. And then I'm just going to remove that stamp there and put this stamp on, which just says Celebrate. And we're going to create banner ends on this particular one, and just with some conviction just go down in the middle, straight down and up, and then just make some banner ends using the banner punch. And what you want to do is pop the cardstock in through the top, not the side in that way that you would normally do, but in through the top here. So it'll come out that side, and you can move it around, and then just punch with it, getting it as central as you can, and the same with the other end, as centrally as you can. And because this is a bit thinner, I can't use the fast fuse, so I'm just using a piece of tear and tape here, same as I would with a piece of ribbon. Peel the backing paper off, and then this just goes over the top of that cardstock there, and that's your little card made. So hopefully you've enjoyed that today, and do leave your comments. You know I love to hear from you, and for feedback and everything. And obviously you can get all of my details on my social media accounts by looking in the show more section underneath today's video, and I'd love to hear from you in whichever format you prefer. And I'll see you again tomorrow for another project. Thank you for watching today, and ta-ta for now.